future's here and now. Here comes the countdown. Sounding off this physical rising revolution. It's our time to change it all. Rising revolution. Unite and fight to make a better life. Everybody, one for all. Sound off, this is the call.
Greetings and salutations, everyone, and thank you for joining me on this rather interesting journey through how my mind works. It's bound to be interesting, to say the least. Over the last year, I've delved deep into the whole social justice warrior, feminism, gender argument realm, trying to make sense of all the insanity I've been seeing popping up in my Facebook feeds and other news feeds. And in all honesty, I'm still as confused as I was in the beginning. The types of social justice warriors and people I've talked to vary intensely. And while a fair number of them are willing to talk to you in order to sway you to their viewpoint, I found that maybe 3 or 4 in 20 would be willing to take your arguments at face value and admit you have a valid point. While most are decent people, they seem to be obsessed with their need to stand out in the world as unique and special. Not that I can blame them, but at the same time, I'm more of a pragmatist when it comes to my existence. Their motives always seem to remind me of a scene from the movie The Incredibles. The main villain Syndrome was explaining his entire plan to the trapped super family, and as he walks out of the room, leaving them restrained and helpless, he says, "And when everybody is super, no one will be." I'd like you to keep this in mind as we proceed through this video, because what these social justice warriors and everybody seem to be doing will end up exactly what Syndrome says. They want to be unique and joyful, but in the end, they're only stripping their identity from themselves. While I was at work, I was, scrolling through the recommended for you video listings that YouTube always provides for us. And in it, I came across a video by the Prince of Queens directed towards Milo Stewart. It was a rather heartfelt and honest advice for the rather young and obviously extremely confused individual that came from a heartfelt frame of mind. And I guess it maybe have changed my frame of mind as to perceive things at the time, because about maybe an hour later, I was listening to a playlist by Peach Bailey, and she had actually gotten down to the topic of Milo and how often Milo had changed her sexual identity over and over and over. In fact, she actually made a small clip regarding all the times that Milo sexually identified herself from the span of the videos.
So I leave you with her proudest point of this video, her personal journey over the last few years.
I have never made a coming out video.
A few moments earlier.
Girls on YouTube, and in case you hadn't noticed, I don't get how anyone could be hurtful or mean to anyone just because they feel they are born in their own body. I'm just like, hey mom, do you know what pansexual is? I just started coming out as genderqueer. Hello, I'm Lori. I'm like 75% male, 20% I don't know what, and then like 5% female. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Milo. I'm the trans. I am a polygender, gender fluid, etc. Non-binary person. I consider my sexuality as a romantic, asexual person to be very queer.
Before we continue, I'd like to thank Peach Bailey for the permission of using this clip, and please ask that everybody here go and give her some love. Check out her videos. She's a wonderful creator. Anyways, when I was listening to this, one of the first things that popped into my head was, why the ever-living fuck would I want to know what the sexual identity of a child is? And then it hit me. I'm not sure if other YouTubers have used this argument before, but here, I might as well give it a shot. Do these folks realize what they're actually asking us to do when they try to force us to use their gender pronouns? I don't think they do. The key that I've noticed with all these special snowflakes is that every time they start getting into their preferred gender, they always say the same thing. Milo does it, Riley Dennis does it, Dakota does it. Every last person who has an alternative gender outside the male and female say it. They say at some point, I sexually identify as blank. And then that's the real issue here. I don't think they realize they're not talking about gender at all. What they're actually talking about is a sexual identity, which is not in any way a gender. A sexual identity is by definition. Sexual identity is how one thinks of oneself in terms of to whom one is romantically or sexually attracted. Sexual identity may also refer to sexual orientation identity, which is when people identify or disidentify with a sexual orientation or choose not to identify with a sexual orientation. So what they have done is mistakenly equated their gender with a self-identity fetish, which is an extremely intimate and arguably private thing in today's society. What a sexual identity is if you're hetero, homo, bisexual, pansexual, etc. All things that involve how you interact with an individual on an intimate and a private manner. I'm sorry if it's going to sound like my brain is going off the rails here, but this is just how my brain works. I make weird connections, but in the end, they make sense when you take a step back and look at the big logic map. So, when these special snowflakes equate their intimate relationships with their gender, what they are essentially doing, and I honestly believe they don't realize they're doing it, is attempting to force the rest of the world to interact with them on an intimate and sexual level, which is why often you will have them so frustrated asking why is it so hard for people to understand who they are. So, to all you folks out there who want us to use your preferred pronouns, what I'm about to say is going to sound weird and way over the top. But I'm going to this extreme to prove a point here, and I say this with all due respect. When you are attempting to force us to use your personal pronouns, what you are essentially doing here is forced sexual contact, which, unfortunately, is rape. No, seriously, you're trying to rape us by forcing us to do this. By forcing us to use these identifier pronouns, what you're doing is forcing those in the world around you into a very intimate and sexual relationship with you that the world at large is not ready for or, in a lot of cases, just not interested in. What you're essentially doing is the verbal and mental equivalent of grabbing us by the hair and snarling at us to prove your dominance of your will over ours. Thus, by removing our free will and agency to choose a more general and socially acceptable means of interacting with you, such as a handshake greeting, you are instead grabbing our hand, shoving it down to your genitals to force us to either jerk you off or finger you. And that is, by definition, forced sexual conduct, so quite literally, you're turning yourself into a rapist. Each and every time you force someone who's not comfortable with you to use your pronouns in a public or private setting. Now, I'm not saying that you can't have your preferred pronouns, but those are special and intimately attached to you, and should only be shared with those in your circles who you are most intimately involved with. And to paraphrase Hillary Clinton, if I may, you have to have a public identity and a private identity. Your public identity is where you accept the whole he-she gender dynamic, because one is interacting with numerous individuals on a daily basis, and having to stop to ask what a person's personal pronouns are every time you meet someone new is a great way to slow down and annoy society at large. Let's face it, not everyone is as much of an exhibitionist as you'd like to be, and not a lot of people are as comfortable with wanting to know you in that intimate of a manner right off the hop. But what you call yourself in your private identity among your circle of friends and family is your choice if you feel comfortable with them in that manner. If they are comfortable with you enough to accept and call you by these signifiers, then you will have a stronger relationship as a result. But if not, then you can use it as a great way of gauging how close you are to your friends and family and who you know you can count on. So what you need to do is sit back and ask yourself this. Do you want to be respected, or do you want to be a rapist? Because by choosing the latter, what you're actually doing is you're contributing to the so-called rape culture that a lot of feminists out there say already permeates the Western society, which it already doesn't. Now, this I'm probably going to get a lot of flack over because I honestly don't think it exists. But I guarantee you, by choosing this, you are actually going to create it. But in the end, the choice is, and always will be, yours and yours alone. But as for who I am and what I choose, well, that's my business, and if I want you to know, I'll tell you. But for now, I am, and always will be, the devil in the details. Thank you for your time. Feel free to click like, subscribe, and share, and comment below. Hey, also, check out all those folks that I mentioned in the description below. They're all great content creators, and I'm sure they will appreciate you visiting their channels. You can also find me on Twitter and on Minds. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to get back to you guys as soon as I'm able to. You guys take care. Have a good day.